Drivers, start your engines!
Hit the pace car! What for? Because you hit every other damn thing out there, I want you to be perfect!
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. It's him, but he talks to me.
Well, I wanna be a race car driver, pretty girls eating from my hand, yeah. Wanna live a life of fun and danger, no sweating working for the man, alright.
Hey, race fans, welcome to the Hoobazoo Radio Network. Welcome to the Drafting the Circuits program. My name is Frank Santoroski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about this past weekend in racing, and what a weekend it was. Now, joining me in the studio, Luis Torres, just the two of us right now. Richard may or may not join us later. We're waiting to hear from him, but Luis and I will keep you updated. Luis, how are you, buddy?
Doing pretty good. My right shoulder is pretty sore, but hanging in there.
All right. So you spent your weekend watching some Supercross, which we could talk about a little bit. It's a little off topic for us, but it's certainly something that's fun to watch and fun to talk about. But we did have a couple of really good races on Sunday between the Formula One race and the NASCAR race. I thought it was very enjoyable, and I certainly thought that, when I opened up my news feed the next morning, that's all anybody would have to talk about was how great those races are. But evidently there's some flat between a couple of actors at an awards thing is dominating all the news headlines. So folks, don't fear. Louise and I are here to fill you in about what happened at the racetrack. So
yeah, this is true. Yeah, what happened. We could talk about the Oscars, the snubbing, like whether it's Lady Gaga or Alana Haim, but that's a whole different story. Let's talk about drama in the racetrack with Formula One.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Grand Prix in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. The second time we're there in just a couple of months. We ended the season there last year, and here we are, second race in, we're back. Now I think after the first two races of this year, all the folks that like to parrot that phrase that Formula One is boring and follow the leader and nothing happens and those sort of things that we've heard for the last several years, I think it's time for them to take another look at what's happening in Formula One this day and age, because not only was there are a lot of great battles all of 2021, but 2022 is shaping up to be a really good season with some different players in the mix there, guys you expect at the front struggling. But the weekend started out with, of all things, a missile strike within like 6 kilometers of the track or 12 miles from the track. Now this, I guess there was an oil refinery that was hit with the missile, from what my understanding is. But very scary situation. And I'm personally surprised that they didn't just pack their gear and leave at that point. But they were prompted to sit through several hours of closed door meetings, with drivers and team owners and Saudi government officials who somehow gave them assurances that they would be safe. I don't know how you give assurances that your enemies or rebels won't bomb you, but whatever they did, they ended up running the race, which honestly surprised me. But I guess if you think about it, right, if you're living in the Middle East, right, you pretty much lived in a war zone your whole life, so maybe you're desensitized to that. It's just one missile. Just like folks in California. When there's a minor earthquake, I say, it's just a 2.6. So, but then ended up
wildfire, or these days,
or a wildfire. Yeah. So, but we ended up having the race, and who was on the pole?
Sergio Perez.
Perez. Yep. His first pole. So there's a name you don't hear at the top of qualifying.
No, we haven't seen one ever from Mexico. Not one of the Rodriguez had done. Not even Hector Ribac when he was with Brabham did it. So It was honestly a long time coming. When I was at Lumen Field, I prefer to call it Century Link Field because I want to remind myself of the good old days of Seattle football. But yeah, when I found out Paris got pole, I was honestly astonished because I saw qualifying was not going to resume because of Mick Schumacher's horrific qualifying wreck. That was second time he's had a heavy lick, or the third he's had a heavy lick at that circuit. It's kind of not been kind to Mick, and because of Mick, the incident and how bad it was, they had to withdraw the entry because of the rule that they have is like, because some people say, oh, why not Pietros in the car? Well, he didn't practice at all, so he couldn't do it by the rule book. But for Paris, it was, when entering the race, it's like, now this is the opportunity for Paris to win one on merit. Pure pace, on his own terms, not things falling on his lap like the Sakir Grand Prix or not Abu Dhabi, Baku a year ago. So I was curious to see that. And it looked like, for a while, things were looking great. Paris was pulling away, and then they're bringing on the pit road, and then, that old number 6 of Nicholas Latifi had a blunder in the final corner, hit the wall, brought out the safety car, and derailed Paris's night completely. He finished fourth, but it was one of those might have been races for Paris again.
Yeah, I know. It's like, if it wasn't for the bad luck, wouldn't be any luck at all. But I mean, fourth place at the end of the day is respectable, and also good way to support the Red Bull effort to win a constructors championship. So
for sure, especially they had no points going into the race because it was a double retirement, albeit Paris is classified because of the 90% rule.
Right. So, but from that point on, Charles Leclerc took charge of the race, did he not?
Yeah, it became Leclerc versus Verstappen for the rest of the race and they put on an absolute barn burner. It was one of those things that we saw back in 2019 at Silverstone when Leclerc and Verstappen were battling real hard until I think it was Giovinazzi put it in the gravel, and then Hamilton went on to win Silverstone. But it's been a long time coming, and I think it's kind of like we've been waiting for this moment for these two to not just for wins, but for a world championship, which looks like they're the early favorites for Verstappen and Leclerc. They were giving it their all, like Verstappen, even with the helmet visor wrap, the tear off, got stuck in one of the antennas below the halo, and he was still charging it all. And when Leclerc, they almost could have made contact, but they had to lock up the brakes real hard in the final corner to assure none of them tangled, because we saw what happened last year with Hamilton and Verstappen. They were not giving an inch, and they would get into one another. So far, it's been pretty calm, and sometimes you want that. You want a calm, tight, intense battle.
Yeah, particularly this early in the season. We're just kind of feeling out the new cars and feeling out the new competition. And and Ferrari, for the first time in a couple of years, has a car that's proven to be both fast and reliable. Here we are. Here's 2 races in. Leclerc has a first and a second, which makes him the early points leader. A great way to start the year. I mean, no retirements so far on them, no major mechanical issues in practice or qualifying. Like we've seen Ferrari struggle the last couple of years with seemingly a little bit of everything here and there, but it looks like Ferrari really has their act together this year. Their hard off-season work has paid off with this 2022 car.
No, totally, for sure. And at the end, Verstappen was just able to fend off Leclerc. He was able to, albeit while leading, over the radio said how Leclerc was catching him. It was so unfair. It's like, and in my mind, it's like, should you be focusing on holding off Leclerc than thinking, how is the worry he's catching so unfair? It's like, oh, please, come on. There's one lap to go. Just try to do your best and hold him off. It's not going to be like a super speed where you could catch an amazing draft and get by him that easy. It's just like, I get it. Racers are racers. I get that, but it's like when you hear that, it's like, come on, man, you're worried. But that also implies that already there's pressure because you're the defending world champion. You're going into Jeddah, no points, and then you want to get as many points as possible and catch up because.
Yeah.
Anytime
I hear a driver say, well, it's not fair. It sounds like a 5-year-old, So it's not
It's like-
fair. But
It happens to everyone. I mean,
sure,
look at the championship race last year with Hamilton with the whole manipulation stuff. It's like, yeah, you're in a heat of the moment and all that, but definitely a big up for Red Bull to get a first and a fourth to help their cause to get back where they need to be going into Melbourne next week. But when you look down the order, Magnussen, Haas once again, albeit Schumacher didn't run. Before the incident, he looked like he might have had a shot at Q3. But we'll never know how he would have fared in the race. But Magnussen, for the most part, he put a lot of pressure on Lewis Hamilton all race long to the point that even Hamilton finished 10th. Russell, I think he got a 5th or a 6th. But even to the point where you're not too used to being in the bottom of the points, you ask yourself, wait, does 10th get points? Which they have since 2010.
Yeah, that was probably the funniest comment coming out of the weekend. Lewis Hamilton, do you even get points for that? Because he's so not used to finishing off of the podium. So.
Yeah, it's like it's all except for like the first 3 years, it's been top 10 points. First 3 years were top 8. If it was like 20 years ago, no, 25 years ago, more realistic, it's only the top 6.
The top 6, yeah. There's only 6 points for a win way back in the day. So, but yeah, I just thought that was funny that Hamilton had to ask if the 10th place pays any points. So, but it's really changed the dynamic here. Mercedes is definitely struggling, and not just Mercedes factory team, but it seems as if the other cars on the grid, say Williams and McLaren, that also have Mercedes power, are not faring as well as some of their counterparts. So I don't know if this is an engine thing or if it's just different things related to the different cars. Because I feel like the Mercedes powertrain is up there. It seemed like it's more aerodynamics and things like that that's hampering them. So we'll have to see how that plays out or when they're able to make some updates. But yeah, really interesting to see the dynamic change that we have Ferrari versus Red Bull, rather than Mercedes versus Red Bull. And even I think it was Christian Horner who said it just feels weird that the rival is Ferrari. He says because the animosity doesn't exist like it exists between them and Mercedes, So, but yeah, definitely changing face of Formula One, and all you people that keep telling me how boring Formula One is and how nothing happens, you need to tune in. I'm telling you, you're missing out on some great stuff.
Indeed, but I can understand some feeling the way they are outside of the race, what we talked about earlier, that it's just weird that this race just naturally happened. Unfortunately, we're going to Melbourne. Things should be calm, and it's going to be kind of a full circle for F1 because when they get there, at the site where the madness really began, we're going to actually have a Grand Prix for once.
Yes, we will. So, but in other Formula One news, so we're told, I guess tentatively, that a race in Vegas in either 2024 or 2023 is a definite. It's a go now. I believe it when I see it, but I said that about Miami, and I never would have thought they got the Miami thing off the ground, but that thing is all set to go, and that will happen this year. Formula One has been in Vegas before. If you recall the Caesar's Palace parking lot race, which was, if you recall what the circuit looked like, it looked like a comb. It was, it had a lot of turns and it was totally flat. But it's more like watching something you'd see that they set up for like an autocross at the mall, just the way that track was. So this is what we're looking at here. And the preliminary look at the track layout for this iteration of Vegas is kind of equally plain. It looks like a big trapezoid. There are a lot of 90-degree turns. There's not a lot of elevation change. There's very few flowing corners. So but I guess it's all about the the glitz and the glam of Vegas, and not so much because I mean, when you look at COTA is what a Formula One racetrack should be, right?
Yeah.
But Austin, Texas did not possess the glitz and the glam of, say, a Miami or a Las Vegas. And I think that, Formula One wants to showcase itself in those major markets.
And split it up into three,
yeah.
like your West, your Mid, and then your East.
Right.
Which they've done before in the past when they had
back,
three U.S. races.
We had three
two.
U.S. races in, I think we had as many as 4. We had 3 in 82 for sure. Because there was Long Beach, Vegas, and Detroit.
But the biggest thing for me when I look at it, I understand F1 in the U.S. is booming. We get it. I totally understand that. But we want to talk about Grand Prix races, and it's gotten to the point that we're pushing over saturation of number of Grand Prix races to the point that people are like, the future's like, say what, by 2030 they want 30 races. It's like you're traveling around the world for 30 races. And for NASCAR, it works in the sense because they're in one territory, that is North America, or in this case, the U.S. When you go travel, whether you're a racer or a mechanic, or even when you go to musician, 30 weeks in multiple parts of the country, some of them a couple times a year. It's asking a lot because you got to import, export items. It's very difficult to do. It's a grind to the point that
especially on these flyaway races, where we're going all the way to the Middle East or down under, or into places like Russia and China, and and it's you're packing up the cars on planes, and it's Formula One is expensive to begin with. And I think the season as it is a bit long. It goes all the way into nearly Christmas time.
Well, fortunately, it's not going to be pushing Christmas because nothing at the moment is being postponed. We drop one Grand Prix, which alleviates the pain. But when you really think about it, 23, but you're looking at 24, 25 in the future. That's asking a whole lot.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Like with musicians, it's one thing because you're traveling kind of almost nonstop daily, but you don't necessarily put a lot of pressure to your body with the G-force all that, like compared to mechanics that have to spend countless of hours just prepping a car, staying in top shape, and acclimating with the weather left and right.
And the jet lag, because you're crossing several time zones, for some of these races, and then crossing back, so it's a grind. But honestly, when I was growing up, first watching Formula One, I think they were right around 16 or 17 races a season, and that always just seemed fine to me. When we pushed it to 18, 19, I was fine with that. But I feel like if we're pushing into 25 and 30, because I always thought the NASCAR season was way too long. Way too many races, but we'll see. There's only so much that the market can sustain in as far as continue to make money. But the fact that Formula One is generally one Grand Prix per country, with the exception of the United States here, who we're looking to have 3. Although the United States it is a much larger.
Has 2.
Italy technically has 2, but the U.S. is a much larger landmass than some of the European countries. So, we'll just have to see how it plays out. But the Vegas thing, again, I didn't think they'd pull off Miami, but evidently they did. And I was still remembering the lessons of the Grand Prix of New Jersey that was all greenlit and ready to go, and that thing just fell apart. Obviously, anybody that's tried to put a race up in the New York area has had a really tough time. NASCAR is still sitting on a big plot of land they bought in Staten Island to put a racetrack on years ago. Now they can't do anything with it just because, you get a city like New York. There's a lot of political red tape and those sort of things to cut through. And then there's also your red tape sort of things that are not necessarily governmental, but they are part of the the culture of what you need to do business in New York. And you can read between the lines and know what I'm talking about there. But yeah, that exists in Vegas too. So, we'll just have to kind of see how it plays out with Vegas. Again, I'm not really impressed with the layout. Vegas as a city, I think of I think of it as a nice tourist destination. But to their credit, they've been fairly successful landing major sports franchises in the last couple of years. They picked up the hockey team, and now they've got them an NFL team. So they're trying to make themselves a sports town. So we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, it took them long enough. I was just curious how long this fad is going to be, because I feel like it could be, but we'll see. Right now, things are looking good for the Raiders. That's as much as I'm going to say about that, to where they might be contenders. But that is key. When they win, people will show up. It's kind of like with LA. They only care if they win. If they don't win, they don't show up. And that's my biggest discrepancy when it comes to these sporting leagues sanctioning events going down there and become a franchise. And that's been always my biggest concern. So it's more like we'll see in 5 to 10 years. But as far as F1, it's good they'll hit the West Coast region. Whether or not I'll be interested in covering that is beyond my wildest dream at the moment. But at the end of the day,
the interesting thing about Vegas with the sports teams is they can almost sell it like they sell vacations to Vegas, where they you get to book this room and this, and you get a couple tickets to the show, who's ever in residency, or whatever show is there. Vegas is famous for its shows, but then you get tickets to the Raiders game. You know what I mean? Because they can they can keep the place full without necessarily season long ticket holders by making it a tourist event. I don't know. It's just. That's off topic of racing. So, but just a thought that popped into my mind when we think about how things operate in Las Vegas. So,
all right. Let's talk about COTA briefly. Let's jump into COTA.
Let's jump into COTA again.
The track, not the movie.
Not the movie, right?
They sound the same, but we're talking about COTA with a T.
COTA with a T. The Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, one of the most beautiful racetracks in the United States. Where they will be holding their Formula One race in November. But this weekend, it was NASCAR, all 3 series running. The debut of the next-gen NASCAR car on a road course. And again, this car was designed with a lot of detail where road courses were kind of in the design of the car. Prior versions of NASCAR cars are primarily built for ovals where they have to modify them for road courses. But this one is put together more like a sports car that would, be suited just fine on a road course. And from what I noticed, I thought the cars handled a heck of a lot better through the road course than the previous versions of NASCAR cars. We didn't have this wheel hopping and cars getting up in the air and running on 3 wheels around the corners that we've seen at some of the stuff we saw at Indianapolis last year and some of the things we've seen on Charlotte Roval. But I thought the cars themselves handled quite well around COTA. Again, just like any other series that has run at COTA, they have a tough time with the so-called track limits. But that's just the design of the layout of that course. There's too much temptation to take that line that's not necessarily on the track because it's still nice and smooth to drive on. But we've been talking about Trackhouse Racing, and we've been talking about Ross Chastain for a couple of weeks and what a great season he's been having. And here he is taking his first win. And mind you, it wasn't a gimme. He lost it and had to take it back by force.
Yeah, it was some people, I know Richard would disagree, and wholeheartedly he has his viewpoints when it comes to that whole last lap chicanery. It's a mixture of last lap anything goes. It's like, if you hit me, I'll hit you back type of deal between him, Allmendinger, and even Alex Bowman was coming into the mix. They had to use the chrome horn, which it's become normalized, and much to the chagrin of many of the competitors. I mean, let's go back to when they ran in most part, were all but one of them were just chrome horn bumping out of the way or sometimes wrecked. It just got pinned and it looked like Allmendinger had a shot of winning, and then it got just collided and went from the lead to 33rd. Because this track is big enough to where it's very, very hard to fall a lap down unless you have reliability problems you have to pit. Very difficult. So one bad error or one incident, you're done for. I looked at Daniel Suarez. Had a great showing. He was leading. He won stage 1. Then he pitted, and then boom, never recovered. Austin Cindrix got turned around multiple times. Got to the top 10, but never really got back in front. So it was a game of stay in front, don't get hit.
Right, and we saw Chase Elliott have some good runs too that were ruined by, some faulty or slow pit work.
Oh yeah, that's become a common problem. He was able to stay out of trouble and get in and finish quite well, but it's stuff like that you just cannot do. I get it. If it has to do with the single lug nut stops, I can understand it. But this has become a common problem with that 9 team a lot. They just got to get it together under pit stops. Started to remind me of Rusty Wallace in 04.
I thought Blaney was the guy that had the crappiest pit stops, but Chase Elliott's fighting for that crown. I don't know if there's an end of year award for that, but
no, I don't
both
think
those
they'll
guys.
Get a million jelly beans out of it.
I was gonna say, I want to say both those guys have had and I often think about, especially with the Blaney situation, how they always talk about Penske perfect, and Penske's well known for their fine pit stops across all the racing series, except for Blaney's team. And I wonder if he's just, just the last of the very last guys on the pit crew tier that he gets. He gets the leftovers. I don't know. It's just something funny to talk about. But yeah,
you think it'd be the 2 team, but obviously that's not the case. If it was any other driver, probably I don't know. Disregard what I say, but like I mentioned, look at Rusty Wallace in 04. By that point, they were one of the top crews, but they had many slow stops. They had to make change. We're starting to get to that point, and maybe they may need to do some changes on who does their pit stops, so where maybe they'll get it together or put them in an ultimatum. They need to get it together because this cannot be happening to that 19th. It's been happening way too many times.
Didn't we have a rule go in effect this year where there's I believe one less person on the pit stop?
Or
did that go in effect last year?
I think it might have been last year or the year before. It's been a while since I've heard about it. But going back to that single lug rule, well, a couple people are going to the house, including Booty Barker, crew chief for Bubba Wallace, because he lost the wheel. And that's the 3rd or 4th suspension related to it. The others being Cascarella and Justin Haley in the Daytona 500. And that's just got to show you that it's still a work in progress. I think that's the one thing that needs to be improved more, but they're just not fully acclimated either unless they get crew members that worked in IMSA and IndyCar in the past or supercars to where that's what they're hired for. They know how to do it quick and efficient. But for those that have been here for a while, it's just been a tough acclimation. That's something we've seen tire failures.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that hard to switch from a 5 lug nut tire to a 1 lug nut. In fact, it should be easier. So I don't know if it has something to do with them not being able to get that perfectly centered on there, or why we're having these issues. But I mean, you see other series have been using single lug nuts for years, and the pit stops are absolutely flawless. I mean, occasionally occasionally you'll see something like the thing with Graham Rahal at Indy last year. Occasionally you'll see something like that, but we're seeing it quite often, and I guess it's just a learning curve for these guys, and the whole, the size of the tire is different than it was, and these guys have been pretty much using the same thing, the same equipment for years. So they've got a lot of muscle memory built up. So it seemed like they're not getting it seated on there right before they attempt to tighten the lug nut there. So
yeah, for sure. It's just one of those things that has got to be worked. It's one of the major things that need to be worked on the most, if there's anything that can be done about it, because it's been made clear. Something like that happen, you're going home. Other divisions, at most, from what I understand, are monetary fines, automatic.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, to your point, I don't think that, suspending a guy for a couple of races is the answer. I think maybe taking a look at the tire and the way it goes onto the hub and everything is, because we had this as early as Daytona. We had things where the Penske team, as well as the Roush Keselowski team, had made some modifications to the wheel rims. And they ended up getting in a little hot water with NASCAR there. But I think NASCAR needs to take a look at that rather than just suspending crew chiefs, because they need to see if there's what's the real root problem. You know what I mean? It's that crew chief is not there putting the tire on, right? He's, so why is he the guy that's culpable for?
Yes, because he's the leader of the ones calling the stops.
Sure. But
Don't they have pit crew coaches? If anything, pit crew coaches should be admonished for it, because they're the ones leading the crew members. They're doing the training and all the pit stops in the garage at the shop. But I guess they want to take it to the upper man. So, but it's a weird rule. But I know they have like pit stop coaches and stuff, people that kind of get them into gear. But I think they want to suspend like it's kind of like they're the head coach, the driver's the QB in this scenario.
Right. Yeah. So I understand the need to want to hold somebody responsible, but I really
under divisions, they're just monetary fines.
Yeah, but I would really like to see them take a look at the root cause of what are they doing wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think we're going to see a lot more if it happens, as that could affect everyone. But it's not as bad as the the 6 team at the moment, where they're still outside the top 30, well outside the top 30 still, and they're going to appeal the ruling, and they'll hear something back sooner or later.
Yeah. So now the RFK thing was for using an unapproved vendor or unapproved parts.
Yeah.
Specifically, do you know specifically what parts were in question?
Not 100% sure.
Okay, I just wondered. Richard might know that, but he neglected to join us tonight. So, but anyway, we.
But yeah, going back to chat before we
going back to the racing action on the track. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing that was, and I can understand to some extent because it's a bigger road course. I think COTA is now the largest track in terms of length in miles than Talladega. But there were so many incidents that were not acknowledged. Like, it shouldn't take 3 days to find out what happened to Kyle Busch on the last lap, where he got spun, where he had 2 incidents on the last lap from going from a top 5 to 30th. I know, like, when they announced this next-gen car last May, like, all the details said, like, all cars will have an onboard of some sort. Sure, they may not be for TV, that people can look up and research their data. But it's getting to the point that makes me wonder when and how, what's the budget to have 40 cars have on board so we know what happens to the point where we can get to F1 levels. I know you're talking about double what F1 puts on board wise, but like, I don't know how many camera people they have, but it looks like it's still not enough. Our TV time must have hurt them completely till we not know what happened to Kyle Busch.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, like you say. So now let me ask you this question: isn't Cup running at Road America this year?
Yes,
that would be the longest track.
Oh,
there's. You just said
Yeah,
Cota's longer than Talladega.
There's my first dirt moment of the season.
Oh, that's okay.
I know. Thanks for reminding me about Road America.
Again, Road America, one of the greatest race courses in North America. I can't wait for that weekend.
The longest strike we've run so far this year.
There you go. That works.
Fair enough. There to save it, but no, yeah. But I think I don't know if it's a Fox thing or NBC or a NASCAR production, but whatever it is, it's like. This has been a common problem all year with Fox, like with Spencer. This is more of Spencer Boyd. It's more of a NASCAR thing than if anything else. where Spencer Boyd was literally stationary, this damaged truck, injured and all, for 2 laps that they did not notice or acknowledge or even waited yellow for. It seems like they missed it completely to where like a night or two later, the onboards became available to where we saw Spencer Boyd laying there for like 2 laps. Imagine if somebody got turned on the backstretch again, because that was a hotbed at the backstretch of Vegas a couple weeks ago. That could have been a horrible look for incidents. Yeah, you're not going to get all of them, but man, those fans that are in the stands were able to capture a lot more than Fox were able to acknowledge. It's just, you can't, it's just, I understand, but they got to figure something out, because this is getting ridiculous with the production and the broadcasting side of things, that they miss too much. And it's like F1 could pick up stuff no matter where they at the track, essentially. I don't get how NASCAR you miss that many. I don't.
Yeah, somebody I know quite well was making the same refrain, comparing the Formula One coverage to IndyCar coverage, saying the same thing. It said, Formula One hardly misses anything, and IndyCar, even with their side by side, they're sometimes focused on maybe the wrong battle on the track, or they're, So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's and as race fans and who are really kind of tuned into the racing, I don't think we'll ever be satisfied with television coverage. Because it's as long as I've been around, people have found reasons to complain about the television coverage. We have had guess who entered the waiting room.
But no, it's just they gotta get it together with the broadcasting side. I know Formula One has a massive budget, but I mean, how did NASCAR 25 years ago were able to capture that much with so little resources, and then compared to today where there's more resources in production? It's just,
I don't know. So did NASCAR catch everything 25 years ago?
But we were able to understand
or
it.
did you just never figure it out? Because now we're finding out things 2-3 days later, right? But maybe you just never found out back in the day. So
but
anyway,
we were able to see stuff more with these, even on. I don't know. It feels like
we can do a whole show about our complaints about television coverage and probably go into overtime. So let's move on and talk about something else. So Richard has joined us. Richard, how are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, sorry for the technical delay there.
Okay, well, yeah, you're a little late to the party, but we've still got another 18-20 minutes left. We've already gone over Formula One, but because you're our Formula One analyst and expert, I will allow you a few moments just to give your thoughts on this the race at Jeddah.
I thought it was a fantastic race. Again, if looking at the first 2 races we've seen this year from Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, they've been fantastic races. Mick Schumacher, very lucky boy there in qualifying. That was a big hit, and good to see him, relatively speaking, walk away from that unscathed. I don't think this is a track that's suitable for Formula One with the speeds that these cars can do. I think we're pushing the edge really of what they're capable of from a safety perspective, as this accident showed, and a number of accidents that we had during the race late last year. I do believe that if we stay in Saudi Arabia and race there again in the future, and that's a topic for another show completely, the permanent circuit in Saudi Arabia is scheduled to be open for 2023. So this may be the last season we actually race in Jeddah, which I don't think would be a bad thing, because it's as I say, I don't think it's a circuit that's suitable for Formula One. And also, please, this is something that really got my goat. This is not a street circuit. This is a road course with walls really close to the edges. A street circuit is Monaco or Baku or Singapore, where you drive through somebody's front yard. This is not a street circuit. This is like Valencia. It's there's no roads here. There's no public roads. But congratulations to Max. I thought it was a great drive by him, and to recover from the disappointment that they had in Bahrain, the previous week. And a great battle, clean battle with Charles Leclerc there in the Ferrari. A fantastic drive by both of them. Unlucky for Sergio Perez when the safety car came out, just didn't quite fall into place for him. But if he can put in qualifying laps like he did, which was probably the lap of his career in many, many ways, he'll be okay. He'll get it done in the future. But yeah, all in all, if you look at the first two races as a package, I think the new cars delivered what they wanted to deliver in terms of close racing. I thought like the battles between the two Alpines in the first dozen or so laps were fantastic, and long may it continue. It's going to be an exciting season.
Yes, it is. Yeah, like I had echoed the sentiment earlier on the show before you joined us, that all those folks that have stopped watching Formula One because they say it's boring and follow the leader and nothing happens. It's time for you to turn your TV back on.
It was time for them to turn the TV on a few years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. But I mean,
2020, we had amazing battles. Despite everything happening.
The last 2.5 seasons, including this one, have been fantastic. So, all right, so we covered Formula One, covered COTA with NASCAR, and we talked about Vegas. Potentially on the Formula One calendar, Richard.
It looks like there's an announcement coming out in the next day or two, maybe tonight.
I thought it was tonight.
I thought it was going to be tonight, yeah. So
2:30 standard GMT, which is going to be probably any time now, actually.
Yeah, 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. I had seen nothing other than a tweet from, I guess, the governor of Nevada, or the mayor of Vegas, whoever it was. I had to double check.
Yeah, so we'll just wait. We'll talk more about that next week. So we did have the IndyCars had their first test of the 2.4 liter engine, the biofuel 2.4 liter engine, and they only got really a handful of laps in on the day one of testing because the temperatures were just unseasonably cold. The temperatures were in the 30s and the low 40s, but no major issues with the things. And this is running without the energy regeneration system. It's not the full hybrid yet. This is just the basic 2.4 liter larger displacement engine. But the only thing to report there is that very little track time, and
apparently Chevy logged in over 600 miles total in 3 days, because it was a 3-day thing as I'm looking it up right now.
I thought they canceled the second 2 days, or unless they picked them up later. So
who really knows? But yeah, I did saw a glimpse of it here. Here it looked at the car and all of that. But if it seems like they have no issues so far, that's pretty encouraging. But obviously, I'd imagine some people are asking, okay, now new engine supply, third OEM win? Because I'd imagine those people are going to be asking that.
Yeah, because if we're already testing the basic block for the 2024 engine, you think if they have another OEM, they're already behind the development curve. So we need to get, if we're going to have a third engine manufacturer in there, they need to announce it very soon. So. But yeah, I mean, so it's, not a lot to report. No lap times were, given out, but we had Newgarden running the Chevy and Dixon running the Honda. But the thing is, no engine breakdowns or anything like that. No technical or mechanical difficulties, which is an encouraging sign. So now, Louise, you wanted to have a discussion about what they call B2B or business to business sponsorships.
Yeah.
Evidently, there's a little bit of an argument on Twitter going on with the use of B2B sponsorships in racing.
Yeah, apparently that's become like another hot water topic, because I think it's stirred up to the fact that Scott McLaughlin is going to run his third livery and sponsorship in as many races this next weekend at Long Beach with Snap-on, which is a nice looking livery, mind you. Because he started the year with the Shell V-Power, then he drove the XPEL at Texas. I think it boils down to identity. Like, back in, it's talk about identity. Like, how people are going to support a driver, if they keep switching liveries, like what kind of merch can they buy if they keep switching all of that, all the stuff. It's like
right. And this is
it's not
this,
the same.
yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, this is a common problem in the current state of racing right now, and you see it in NASCAR as well. You got guys with rotating liveries. There's very few cars on the track in any American series that have the same sponsor from race one all the way to the end of the season. Yeah, there's a few, okay, and then the point of we'll talk about the B2B sponsors, right? Business to business deals, right? Well, that's essentially you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, right? So, Snap-on Tools put our name on the car. Penske will buy Snap-on Tools for all their trucks. You know what I mean? Well, you saw the same thing with, Fitzgerald glider kits. Remember that?
Yep, I remember.
So Fitzgerald glider kits, they make, trucks, OTR trucks. They make the basic chassis and frame for that. So there's obviously they're not marketing to the consumer because, who's sitting watching the race? Say, hey, man, Newgarden won in that Fitzgerald. I'm going to go buy me a Fitzgerald truck. No,
yeah, you don't see that.
But Penske also has Penske Leasing, right? So, and guess what kind of trucks are being used in Penske Leasing? Fitzgerald glider kits, right? So that's a business to business deal. And then the other ones are when you talk about like Arrow, right? Arrow is not necessarily marketing to the consumer. Okay. Arrow sells very small electronic components to larger companies that build larger components. They like to use IndyCar racing as a platform to showcase their technology. So when you, if you want to do business with Arrow, say you're a Microsoft or somebody like that, or Dell, somebody that needs to buy all these small parts to make your electronics. And Arrow is seeking your business. They may take your executives to an IndyCar race to entertain clients and showcase the technology. That was the same thing. And if you recall, ABC Supply that was associated with the AJ Foyt team for years.
Yep.
ABC
Supply
Supply
still be around for the 500.
Right. ABC Supply they're not necessarily marketing directly to the consumer either. ABC Supply sells largely to contractors, and they make, materials to build houses and buildings is what ABC does right now. You can go to a ABC store, but their biggest clients are contractors and construction businesses. And again, they use the platform of Indy racing to entertain clients. I mean, anytime you go to the 500, you'll see the group of everybody in their ABC clothes being brought around by the tour guide, and those are all potential clients of ABC. So that's how the business to business
we see that
works.
all the time in the
we see that all the time, and the reason we see that is because the advent of internet advertising has made it much cheaper to advertise on the internet than to slap your logo on a race car. I mean, it used to be that one of the big selling points of racing sponsorship is that racing fans are sponsored loyal, which is true to a large extent, particularly if you recall 30 years ago, they used to call the Busch Grand National Series the grocery store series, because literally every sponsor was something you could find in a grocery store.
Oh yeah, yeah. You had your Albertsons and all that stuff.
Kroger's car, and and
King. Well, you have also products within products you could buy at any retail store, like Aaron's, Kroger.
Right. Yeah. So you had.
I mean, Kingsford. I know you said Kroger. Kingsford, Toys R Us was around. You had all these.
Yeah. Right. So these were used just to sell products, right? But there's fewer and fewer actual consumer products sponsoring racing now because the return on investment.
M&M's is going to leave at the end of the year.
M&M's is leaving, right? And who else have we lost over the years, right? Lowe's.
We lost Lowe's.
UPS, Kodak. Those are all
basically
marketing to the
Miller Lite
consumer.
at this point. Budweiser.
Yeah,
Well,
Miller Lite is all gone
rebrand-
except for the one
with Keystone.
the
these
one
days.
Keystone car that's one race, which is the Coke 600. Yeah. So, and then you get these other companies that are just finding other ways to market.
Or
for
in
a while,
IndyCar's case, vaping with views.
well, vaping, yeah, and vaping in Formula One as well.
Yeah.
But then for a while there was pharmaceutical companies were big. If you think about the Mark Martin with the Viagra car,
Yeah,
right?
CNC.
Charlie Kimball with the Novo Nordisk, and again, they're not necessarily marketing to the consumer, but if they want doctors to prescribe their product, take a group of doctors to the race. There's very few consumer products left out there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's the thing. If other companies that may not be accessible, we're like, oh, let me go get this, are interested in a sport. That's just how the model is now.
Exactly. Yeah, and
it is what it is. I can't say unfortunate because it brings some eyeballs to who, like you said, to different people that may be interested. Like James Hardy was sponsored a car, Noah Gregson, a JR Motorsport. I used to thought James Hardy was a chicken company because that used to be a Bathurst 1000 title sponsor. Then I realized it's just construction products, like I think for drywalls and all of that.
right.
It doesn't. It's more catering to those who are in construction, not like your common Americana is like, oh, I'm gonna go buy James Hardy just for the sake of buying. No, it's gonna be for proper usage.
Yes, I thought James Harden was a basketball player.
James Harden. I'm talking about James Hardy.
Okay, I don't know. But anyway, back to the question about the rotating liveries, right? The thing that people need to understand, yes, it's frustrating to not know what car your favorite driver is in. There was a time where we knew Al Unser Jr. was in the Valvoline car. Michael was in the Kmart car,
Yeah, you had Haviland, Marlboro.
Yeah, Rick
Norton.
Mears was in the Marlboro car, yeah.
Craco.
Yeah, but those days are gone. And if you want to do a full season of racing, to ask a sponsor, I need you to pony up for me to do 16 races, in the case of IndyCar, or
A dedicated driver.
38 races in the case of NASCAR. It's a hard sell, right? But if you can find 5 or 6 different companies that want to buy a couple races a piece, and that budgets you, that's the way to go. Yeah, I mean, look at Team Penske, which should be able to line up with their success, somebody to sponsor all their cars and have the same livery every race. They don't have that.
The closest thing is
Willpower.
Logano.
Willpower.
And Willpower, yeah.
And Logano. And even Logano, even the Pennzoil is not for all the races.
No,
I think there's 4 or 5 races where he's running a different livery. I think
Auto Club,
Advanced Auto Parts, and Auto Club. But like even
Auto
Newgarden,
Trader.
Newgarden's never had a full season. He probably has the bulk of his races are with Hitachi.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny.
I mean, like Texas,
and
he drove the PPG card that I more associate with Scott McLaughlin.
I know, right? Because I was looking for pictures of Scott McLaughlin, and I downloaded like 5 pictures. I was going through your picture file to do the McLaughlin, and I downloaded like 5 pictures of Newgarden until I realized, that's not
opposite of this. They're the opposite this year for the XFL 375.
Right. And then even Simon had the Menards for the bulk of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he also had the other car, the XC,
the gold, super bright gold car.
Had the super bright gold car, but he had the black and white car. What was the XC? But yeah, so in order to put a season together,
DXC Technologies.
DXC, that's what it was. Yeah, but that's just the way it is, and it would be nice if they could maybe coordinate deliveries so there was something identifiable about the driver. But then again, when it's going to be, how's that car going to look? It's going to be up to the guy who's shelling out the money to put their logo on there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and for at least for Penske, we know whose name is on the car because they put it on the arrow above the arrow screen.
Right.
Not mandatory, but it's a nice subtle touch.
Yeah, it's not mandatory, but yeah, at least you know who's who. But I mean, there are a couple cars that have consistent liveries. That Rossi they went ahead and because he used to sometimes drive the Napa, sometimes drive the Auto Trader or not Auto Trader the pink livery
Auto Nation.
That's what it is. But now they've combined the two liveries into one to create a hideously ugly car. But it's going to be the same hideously ugly car every race.
Yeah, like PNC Bank with Dixon, Johnson with Carvana. There's a couple of them.
Willpower
or Dalton Kellett with K-Line.
Dalton Kellett with his dad's company. Yep.
I think
the Carpenter cars have had pretty consistent liveries. They've all got full range sponsors. So yeah.
If anything, it's just the 500 during the month of May that changes.
Right, but there are like Rahal. The Rahal cars have always had rotating liveries. Palou's got rotating livery. But again, that's how you fund the season. There's no easy answer to it. Do I like it? Not necessarily. Yeah, I do like the fact that if I could say, Al's in the Valvoline car, Michael's in the Kmart car, but I also like seeing a car fully funded for the season, no matter what it takes.
For sure. And because look no further with Alex Palou in 2020 when he drove for Coin, he basically ran unsponsored the whole year except for I always forget that one sponsorship that came along for the 500. I keep forgetting the darn name, but for the most part, it ran unsponsored the whole year, and he still was able to put some good results out of it. But yeah, you want to see all cars with liveries on it with sponsorship, because it does affect them if they run out of pocket and they don't. And even if they run well, who knows if they'll get anything out of it.
Yeah, and I also understand it's disappointing the fans. I remember going to Martinsville a couple years ago because I'm a Keselowski fan, and I was I'm a big fan of the white Miller Lite car. But when we got to Martinsville, he was running a Discount Tire or something else. So his car was like yellow and red, and I was like trying to pick him out, and I'm like, But so I mean. It is what it is. We can get into little feuds on Twitter. We can say, and I've heard people say crap like IndyCar should mandate. I know this one crazy guy that always says that IndyCar should mandate team liveries, just like Formula One, so all the team cars look alike. I said, okay, so you're gonna,
That's never been the case ever.
It's never been the case, in IndyCar or in NASCAR or in American racing in general. But that this guy wants to turn IndyCar into Formula One anyway. But you can't mandate a team livery. You can't tie the team's hands when it comes to attracting somebody to finance the team. And you've got to defer to the guys. I will give you the money, but paint that car my color. Our logo is green, and I want that car to be green. And then, Bob Rahal says, yes, sir, here is your green car that you'll see at Gateway. So, which, by the way, that sponsor, iPacket, that is an actual consumer product. What they do is very similar to like Carfax. They track automobile history for potential buyers of used cars, and they are brand new to the series. The car looks stunning. It's done up in like a hunter green combined with the bright green, and I hope that they get their bang for their buck at Gateway. I really do. And interestingly enough, Gateway, the race is sponsored by Bomarito, which is one of the biggest car dealers in that area. So, I wonder if there's a little bit of a partnership between Bomarito and iPacket, because those are two companies that could certainly work well together. But anytime a new company is coming into IndyCar, even if it's just for one race to test the waters, I think it's good for the sport.
Indeed. I say so at the end of the day. It's just got to have to fight whatever it takes to get it back, because will we get back to the glory days of sponsorship where we can easily identify? I don't know at this rate.
I doubt it. I think those days have come and gone.
Yeah. Just
So-
like one album is called "Days Are Gone." It's literally "Days Are Gone," and it's
Days
just got to
are
have
gone.
that depth. But it's just at the end of the day, it's just a new practice. I get it, but when you have many companies leaving after all these, when they change general managers or CEOs, they're not interested or and all that. That's just how business works. I'm no business major, but at least I have an idea. I get why stuff like this happens.
Yeah, it's all about return on investment. You know what I mean? Like when Target gets a new CEO and they say, well, how many people shop at Target simply because we funnel all this money to Chip Ganassi? And when it turns out not as many as you think, then we no longer see Target cars on the track. So with that being said, where are we racing this weekend? Formula One's off.
IndyCar's off.
IndyCar's
NASCAR
off.
is going to Richmond.
Going to Richmond. Okay. So you like Alex Bowman for Richmond? Because I do.
I'm going William Byron.
William
I go
Byron.
with Truex, but I'm still mixed with Toyota right now.
Yeah, Toyota seemed to be struggling a bit. They could certainly use a win to kind of boost the morale in their
Yeah,
forces.
Truex has done very quietly well, but
quietly well, yeah, which is
quietly well ain't enough. Well, I mean, we've seen Truex done quietly well make it to the championship for so.
yeah. Anyway, so we are up against the clock here. We're out of time. I want to thank Dan Blay Racing Art. Find them on Facebook, Dan Blay Racing Art. Get your custom die cast made by either Dan himself or his son, Michael, who both do a fantastic job. Also, visit firstsuperspeedway.com, treasure trove of early racing information, and a link to buy the book, The Legend of the First Super Speedway by Mark Dill, who's a great friend of the show. I want to thank both those guys for supporting our show. I want to thank the Hoobazoo Radio Network, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Spreaker, and Google Podcasts. I want to thank you, Richard, for coming on just for a minute till your phone died. I know you're busy and working on stuff, but, thank you for a little bit of time. Louise, I want to thank you for hanging out with me tonight. And I want to thank you folks that listen to us every week. But until next week, good night.
Hoobazoo.com.